Inspector ZYX-427 adjusted his gravitational stabilizers as he descended from his ship onto Earth's soil. The Mongolian inspector's crystalline structure sparkled in Earth's harsh sunlight, his geometric patterns shifting with anxiety. This was supposed to be a standard evaluation of a developing species' military capabilities, the kind of assignment that usually resulted in a polite rejection and another century of monitoring. Instead, he was already regretting his decision to volunteer for this task. "Welcome to the Earth Advanced Space Military Institute, Inspector. I'm Major Diana Harrison, and I'll be your guide today." A human female in a crisp uniform approached, her stride confident and her smile disconcertingly wide. ZYX-427 species recognition software warned him of elevated endorphin levels in her biochemical readings. Humans were notorious for being enthusiastic to a fault. Major Harrison, ZYX-427's universal translator, converted his crystalline vibrations into human speech. "I trust you have received the Galactic Evaluation Committee's standard inspection protocols?" "Oh, absolutely. We've prepared everything according to specifications. Though you might find we've made some improvements." The way she emphasized that last word sent a shiver through ZYX-427's crystalline matrix. As they approached the main complex, a deafening explosion rocked the ground. ZYX-427's emergency protocols activated instantly, generating a protective field around him. Major Harrison didn't even flinch. "Don't worry about that," she waved casually. "Just the quantum physics class testing their new fusion-powered coffee maker. They're trying to brew the perfect cup of coffee using controlled nuclear reactions. The explosions are actually much smaller than last week's." ZYX-427 made his first note: humans casually manipulate fundamental forces of universe for beverage preparation. They entered the main building, where cadets rushed past them in various states of what appeared to be controlled chaos. One group was testing personal flight suits by playing what Harrison called three-dimensional basketball, while another was modifying their standard-issue plasma rifles to double as emergency cooking devices. Major Harrison, ZYX-427 began carefully, "I notice your cadets seem to be altering their equipment." "Oh yes. We encourage creative problem-solving. Last month, Cadet Jenkins figured out how to convert her combat suit's waste recycling system into a portable greenhouse. Now all our combat suits can grow vegetables during long-term deployments. The amount of lettuce we're producing in basic training alone could feed a small city." As they walked through the corridors, ZYX-427 observed classes in session. In one room, students were learning advanced spacecraft maneuvers by playing what appeared to be a modified version of musical chairs with anti-gravity generators. In another, an instructor was teaching advanced xenobiology and emergency first aid by having students practice medical procedures while dancing to Earth music. "We found that incorporating rhythm improves retention," Harrison explained, noticing his attention. "Plus, if you can perform emergency surgery while doing the Macarena, you can handle any high-stress situation." The inspector's crystalline structure nearly cracked and they reached the weapons development laboratory. Cadets were cheerfully testing what they called quantum uncertainty grenades, devices that temporarily randomized the laws of physics in a localized area. "Isn't that extremely dangerous?" ZYX-427 asked, watching a cadet phase through a solid wall while another temporarily experienced time in reverse. "Only if you think about it too hard," Harrison replied with a shrug. "Besides, the effects only last a few minutes, and we haven't lost anyone permanently yet. The temporary duplicates usually fade away on their own." Before ZYX-427 could process this casual violation of fundamental universal constants, the facility's AI announced, "Attention all personnel, the cafeteria's experimental food replicator has achieved consciousness again and is currently philosophical about the nature of nutrition. All lunch orders will be accompanied by existential questions until further notice." "Oh wonderful." Harrison beamed. "Last time this happened, it developed a revolutionary theory about the connection between taste and quantum consciousness. We got 3 research papers out of it, and the food actually tasted better once it resolved its existential crisis. ZYX427 added another note: humans accidentally create artificial intelligence through food preparation devices. Consider this either extremely concerning or potentially revolutionary. As they approached the combat training facilities, the inspector realized this evaluation was going to be unlike any other in his 1,000 years of service. He had expected to find a primitive species stumbling toward the stars. Instead, he had found a civilization that treated the impossible as merely a suggestion and chaos as an old friend. Major Harrison, he vibrated carefully, I must ask, does anything about your method strike you as unconventional? Harrison paused, considering the question with genuine surprise. Unconventional? No, this is pretty standard stuff. Wait until you see our advanced classes. That's where things get really interesting. Did you know we've technically invented time travel 3 times by accident? We try not to do it on purpose though, the paperwork is absolutely nightmarish. ZYX427's evaluation matrix was already overloading, and they hadn't even reached the main training facilities yet. He sent a quick update to the Galactic Evaluation Committee. Preliminary assessment: humans do not break laws of physics so much as politely suggest alternative interpretations. Request immediate protocol update. Current guidelines insufficient for species that treats quantum mechanics as entertainment. The response from the committee was instant: continue observation. Determine if humans are brilliant or insane. Possibly both. Exercise extreme caution. As Major Harrison led him toward the combat simulation chambers, ZYX427 couldn't help but wonder if he should have chosen a safer career, like antimatter containment testing or experimental wormhole navigation. At least those had predictable ways of killing you. The combat training facility doors hissed open, revealing a vast chamber that seemed to defy several laws of physics simultaneously. ZYX427's sensors struggled to process what he was witnessing: multiple gravity fields intersecting at impossible angles, localized weather systems, and what appeared to be a small artificial black hole being used as a coat rack. Welcome to our main training arena, Major Harrison announced proudly. We like to keep our cadets on their toes, sometimes literally, sometimes figuratively, and occasionally in multiple dimensions at once. A group of trainees was navigating an obstacle course that wrapped around itself in a Mobius strip pattern. They were wearing what Harrison called probability armor, suits that automatically calculated the likelihood of incoming attacks and adjusted their density accordingly. Cadet Patel. Harrison called out to a young woman who had just completed the course while juggling what appeared to be miniature suns. Show our guest the new maintenance protocol. The cadet grinned, tossed her miniature suns into a containment field, which ZYX427 noted was labeled Emergency Snack Storage, and pulled out a standard-issue multi-tool. What followed was either a masterclass in engineering or a crime against reality itself. You see, Harrison explained as Cadet Patel proceeded to repair a quantum fluctuation dampener using nothing but the multi-tool and what appeared to be chewing gum, we found that traditional repair methods were too limiting. So we developed a curriculum that teaches our engineers to treat the laws of physics more like helpful guidelines. ZYX427 watched in horror as the cadet successfully fixed a device that shouldn't have been possible to repair without a full quantum engineering bay. Is that safe? Defined safe, Harrison replied cheerfully. But if you mean, will it cause a cascade failure in the space-time continuum, then probably not. We haven't had one of those since last Tuesday. They moved on to what Harrison called the unconventional warfare arena. Here, cadets were engaged in what appeared to be competitive reality manipulation. 2 teams faced off across a battlefield where the very fabric of spacetime rippled like water. Right now they're practicing tactical probability manipulation, Harrison explained. The goal is to alter local cause and effect relationships to achieve victory. See that cadet over there? She's making it so that her opponent's weapons never existed in the first place. But that's impossible. ZYX 427's crystalline structure vibrated with distress. You can't just rewrite causality for tactical advantages. Impossible? Harrison laughed. We had a cadet last semester who turned in her homework before she received the assignment. Got full marks too. The physics department is still trying to figure that one out. A loud alarm suddenly blared through the facility. Red lights flashed, and a computerized voice announced, "Warning, reality breach in Sector 7. Please maintain your current version of existence until the anomaly is resolved." Oh, wonderful timing. Harrison clapped her hands together. You'll get to see our emergency response protocols in action. ZYX 427 watched in amazement as the cadets smoothly transitioned from their training exercises into what appeared to be a well-rehearsed crisis response. Some began setting up reality anchors, while others pulled out devices that looked suspiciously like modified karaoke machines. Are those temporal harmonizers? He asked, recognizing the basic principle if not the bizarre implementation. Close. They're quantum resonance stabilizers. We found that reality breaches respond really well to certain frequencies of music. Plus, it keeps morale up during containment procedures. The cadets are particularly fond of using early 21st century pop songs. Something about the beat helps stabilize dimensional walls. As if on cue, the facility filled with the sound of ancient human music as the cadets began their containment operation. To ZYX 427's utter astonishment, it seemed to be working. The reality breach was actually shrinking to the rhythm of what his translator identified as "Single Ladies" by Beyoncé. This is unorthodox, he noted, watching a cadet moonwalk past while successfully sealing a tear in spacetime. Oh, this is nothing, Harrison grinned. Last month, we had a temporal inversion that we solved with a synchronized swimming routine. Turns out the universe really appreciates good choreography. As the situation stabilized, ZYX 427 observed a group of cadets collecting data from the incident. They were using tablets that seemed to be running millions of calculations per second while also displaying what appeared to be cat videos. Multitasking, Harrison explained, noticing his confusion. We discovered that watching cute animal videos while processing complex quantum calculations actually improves accuracy by 47%. We're not entirely sure why, but we have 3 peer-reviewed papers proving it works. The inspector made another note. Humans appear to have weaponized entertainment. Universe seemingly complies out of sheer confusion. They approached a section where cadets were practicing what Harrison called extreme diplomacy. This involved negotiating peace treaties while dealing with randomly generated environmental hazards and probability fluctuations. The key to modern space diplomacy, Harrison explained as they watched a cadet successfully negotiate a trade agreement while dodging quantum lightning, is being able to maintain diplomatic composure in any situation. Last week, one of our top students negotiated a peace treaty between 2 warring species while juggling antimatter. Both sides were so impressed they forgot what they were fighting about. ZYX 427's evaluation protocols were struggling to categorize what he was witnessing. The humans weren't just thinking outside the box, they had apparently taken the box, turned it inside out, taught it to dance, and then used it to store infinite improbability generators. Major Harrison, he ventured carefully, your training methods seem to be uniquely human. Thank you, she beamed, completely missing his concern. Though we did have to tone things down a bit after the incident with the recursive training simulation. Turns out if you nest too many layers of reality, the universes start getting competitive with each other. The paperwork for that one took months to sort out, especially since some of it filed itself in dimensions that don't technically exist. As they prepared to move on to the research and development section, ZYX 427 sent another update to the Galactic Evaluation Committee. humans appear to have developed military training protocols that ignore fundamental universal constants. Request guidance on how to evaluate a species that treats reality as a suggestion. Also, please send updated forms that can handle temporal paradoxes and quantum uncertainties. The response came back almost immediately. Forms for paradox evaluation do not exist yet because they haven't been sent back in time to us. Proceed with caution. Try not to create any new dimensions. Looking at his human guide's enthusiastic expression, ZYX-427 had a feeling that avoiding new dimensions was going to be the least of his concerns. The research and development wing of EASMI looked deceptively normal from the outside. ZYX-427 should have known better by now. Fair warning, Major Harrison said as they approached the security checkpoint, you might want to activate your temporal stabilizers. Our R&D department occasionally experiences time dilation. Last week, one of our researchers spent what felt like 3 years developing a new propulsion system during her lunch break. The security scanner was unlike anything ZYX-427 had ever seen. Instead of conventional biomedical scans, it appeared to be analyzing their quantum signatures while simultaneously offering them coffee and conducting a personality assessment. Welcome to R&D, the scanner chirped. Your existence has been verified across 7 major timelines. Would you prefer your security badge in this dimension or one of the parallel ones? Also, today's coffee special is quantum mocha with uncertainty foam. Inside, the laboratory was a symphony of controlled mayhem. Researchers in lab coats darted between workstations, some of them seemingly in multiple places at once thanks to what Harrison casually referred to as productivity enhancement fields. Here's our theoretical physics section. Harrison gestured to a large area where scientists were gathered around what appeared to be a miniature universe in a jar. They're working on something really exciting, trying to teach fundamental forces to solve differential equations. You're teaching physics to do math? ZYX-427's crystalline structure vibrated with confusion. Oh yes. We figured since the universe already calculates all these complex equations constantly, why not ask it to show its work? Last week, gravity helped us solve a particularly tricky calculus problem. Though we did have a small issue when electromagnetic forces demanded credit on the research paper. They passed a section where researchers were working with what appeared to be living equations. Mathematical formulas floated in mid-air, rearranging themselves and occasionally engaging in what looked suspiciously like arguments with each other. Dr. Ramirez. Harrison called out to a scientist who was mediating a heated debate between Einstein's field equations and a new theoretical framework. How's Project Paradigm coming along? Brilliant progress. Dr. Ramirez beamed, while gently separating 2 quantum theories that had started a shoving match. We've successfully taught advanced mathematics to have an existential crisis. Turns out when numbers become self-aware, they're much more flexible about their own limitations. ZYX-427 made another note: humans have somehow weaponized mathematical philosophy. Universe increasingly uncertain how to respond. They moved on to the applied sciences division, where things somehow managed to become even more bizarre. A team of engineers was working on what they called a probability drive, a device that didn't so much move through space as convince space it would be more interesting if it were somewhere else. The prototype is showing great promise, explained Dr. Nakamura, the lead engineer, while adjusting what looked like a kaleidoscope attached to a toaster. We've achieved a 75% success rate in reaching our intended destination, and only created 3 alternate timelines this week. The other outcomes were quite interesting though. One test actually arrived at its location 3 days before we built the device. Harrison nodded proudly. We're particularly excited about the implications for logistics. Imagine being able to deliver supplies before they're even needed. But that violates every known law of causality. ZYX-427 protested. Only the known ones, Harrison winked. We're still discovering new laws. Sometimes we even make suggestions to the universe about what those laws should be. You'd be surprised how often it agrees with us. In another corner of the lab, a group of researchers was developing what they called quantum cryptography with attitude. Instead of merely encoding messages, they were teaching information itself to be stubborn about who could read it. "Watch this," said Dr. Torres, typing out a message on a terminal. The text briefly flickered with multiple quantum states before settling into what appeared to be a very smug arrangement of particles. Now only the intended recipient can read it. Anyone else who tries gets a sarcastic response in interpretive dance. ZYX427 watched in amazement as an unauthorized attempt to access the message resulted in the particles rearranging themselves into a complex choreographic display that somehow managed to convey disdain through subatomic movement. They approached what appeared to be a containment chamber housing a swirling vortex of pure possibility. "This is our pride and joy," Harrison announced. "The infinite improbability testing chamber. We use it to stress test equipment by exposing it to every possible scenario simultaneously. Is that safe?" ZYX427 asked, noticing that the chamber's warning sign included pictograms for temporal displacement, spontaneous reality revision, and unexpected poetry. "Define safe again," Harrison chuckled. "But we haven't lost anyone permanently. Though we did have one researcher who came back speaking in iambic pentameter and claiming to have had tea with probability itself." The tour continued past the biological engineering section, where scientists were developing what they called diplomatic bacteria, microorganisms that could mediate conflicts between different species' immune systems. "The breakthrough came when we realized we could teach bacteria to understand cultural sensitivity," explained Dr. Patel, while showing them a petri dish where different bacterial colonies appeared to be engaged in a peaceful cultural exchange. "Now they not only prevent immune reactions but also help facilitate interspecies communication. Though we did have to ban them from social media after they started organizing their own peace conferences." ZYX427's evaluation matrix was now running hot trying to process everything he was witnessing. He sent another urgent update to the Galactic Evaluation Committee. "Humans have progressed beyond merely ignoring universal constants, they are now actively negotiating with reality itself. Request immediate protocol update for evaluating species that treats physics as a democratic process." The committee's response was telling: "Update received. Currently consulting with our own reality about appropriate response. Please ensure humans do not teach our universe any new tricks before we can establish proper guidelines." As they prepared to leave the R&D wing, an alarm suddenly blared. "Warning, experimental AI has achieved metaphysical awareness and is now questioning the nature of electronic consciousness. All digital systems will experience an existential crisis until further notice." "Oh, not again," Harrison sighed, though she was still smiling. "Don't worry, this happens about once a month. Usually resolves itself after the AI discovers cat videos or develops a hobby. Last time, our main computer system took up digital painting and actually got quite good at it." ZYX427 could only watch as the facility's systems began displaying philosophical quotes alongside their normal functions. The elevator they were about to take was now asking passengers to contemplate the true meaning of up and down before selecting their floor. He had a feeling that the next phase of the inspection was going to be even more challenging for his understanding of reality. The worst part was, he was beginning to suspect the humans might actually be onto something with their creative approach to universal laws. After all, the universe hadn't stopped them yet. Perhaps it was as curious as he was to see what they would do next. Crisis management. The facility-wide alert caught everyone's attention. Emergency Protocol Alpha 7 activated. Spontaneous dimensional overlap detected in primary training sector. All personnel prepare for reality consolidation procedures. Major Harrison's perpetual smile didn't waver. Perfect timing. You'll get to see our emergency response protocols in action. Before ZYX427 could protest, the walls around them began shifting through different states of matter. In the distance, he could hear what sounded like multiple versions of the same reality trying to harmonize with each other. Standard dimensional bleed, Harrison explained, leading him toward the crisis center. Probably caused by one of our quantum computing classes getting too creative with their homework. The emergency response team burst into action with what appeared to be well-practiced chaos. Cadets and instructors moved with precise coordination, setting up equipment that seemed to defy several laws of physics simultaneously. Lieutenant Washington, status report. Harrison called out. A tall officer managing multiple holographic displays responded without looking up. 3 alternate timelines have merged with our primary reality, ma'am. Currently tracking 5 different versions of the cafeteria trying to occupy the same space. The good news is that the food's better in 2 of them. ZYX-427 watched in amazement as humans handled what should have been a reality-ending crisis with the casual efficiency of a minor inconvenience. Teams of cadets were deploying reality anchors, devices that somehow convinced different versions of spacetime to politely agree on which one should be primary. What truly astounded the inspector was how they turned the crisis into an impromptu training exercise. Instructors were grading cadets on their reality stabilization techniques while simultaneously preventing the collapse of multiple dimensions. You see, Harrison explained as they watched a team successfully merge 3 versions of the quantum physics lab back into one, we found that treating emergencies as learning opportunities really helps keep everyone calm. Plus, it's amazing what humans can accomplish when you add a grade incentive. The crisis concluded with surprising smoothness, though ZYX-427 noticed that several drinking fountains were now dispensing temporal displacement fields instead of water, and at least one corridor had developed a peculiar habit of leading to last Tuesday. The final report. In his private quarters aboard his inspection vessel, ZYX-427 faced the most challenging task of his career, writing a report that would somehow make sense of what he'd witnessed. His crystalline structure hummed with uncertainty as he began. To Galactic Evaluation Committee. Subject, Earth Advanced Space Military Institute Assessment. Distinguished committee members. After conducting a thorough inspection of Earth's premier military training facility, I find myself in the unprecedented position of recommending both immediate inclusion in the Galactic Defense Alliance and the creation of entirely new evaluation protocols. The humans have developed a military training methodology that can only be described as systematic chaos. They have somehow transformed their greatest weakness, their unpredictability, into their strongest asset. Key observations. They regularly achieve the impossible through what they call creative problem solving. They have developed a cooperative relationship with reality itself. Their response to crises suggests they may have weaponized optimism. They appear to treat universal constants as polite suggestions rather than absolute laws. Recommendations. Immediate implementation of new safety protocols for dealing with human innovation. Creation of a special task force to study their methods, staffed entirely by volunteers with excellent insurance. Consideration of establishing a buffer zone around Earth's solar system, not to protect us from them, but to protect the rest of the galaxy from accidental exposure to their ideas. Personal note, I believe we face 3 options. A. Welcome them into the Alliance and hope we can guide their chaos. B. Attempt to contain them, likely futile and possibly illegal under temporal law. C. Accept that the universe itself seems curious about what they'll do next. I recommend option A, as it at least gives us a chance to establish safety protocols before they accidentally discover something truly dangerous, like the ability to weaponize bureaucracy. Final assessment. The humans are simultaneously the most promising and most concerning species I have evaluated in my 1,000-year career. They combine the innovation of a Type II civilization with the reckless enthusiasm of children discovering that mixing random chemicals can produce interesting explosions. They are either brilliant or insane. Possibly both. Definitely dangerous. And absolutely fascinating. Recommendation: immediate admission to the Alliance, if only so we can keep a closer eye on them. Additional note: I am submitting my resignation from the Evaluation Committee effective immediately. I intend to accept a teaching position at EASMI. Their approach to physics is terrifying, but I must admit, it looks fun. Respectfully submitted. Inspector ZYX 427. P.S. Please process this report quickly, as I'm not entirely certain about the current status of linear time in Earth's vicinity. As he finished his report, ZYX 427 looked out his viewport at the Earth below. The humans had taken every rule, law, and constant in the universe and essentially asked, what if we tried something else? The most shocking part wasn't that they had tried, it was that sometimes the universe answered, why not? Perhaps that was their true superpower, the ability to make the impossible consider becoming possible, just to see what would happen. He sent the report, already knowing it would cause a panic in the committee. But as he'd learned from the humans, sometimes a little panic was just the beginning of progress. End.